If you are a human being that has been raised in a family that believes in one God, which Christian and Jews have worshipped throughout history, most likely you have heard of the Ten Commandments. For those who have heard or read the Ten Commandments, a good number of you probably think they are holding you back from enjoying life to the fullest. In my mind, I used to think of the Ten Commandments like the boxes that held down Jacob and Robert Marley in the Muppets Christmas Carol. I understand the original Christmas Carol only has Jacob Marley appearing to Scrooge, but I grew up watching the Muppets, so you just have to bear with me on this one. I used to think that the commandments never allowed me to enjoy life and its pleasures. Like the heavy iron chest that weighed down the Marley brothers, so too were the commandments weighing me down, not allowing me to live in peace. For that main reason, I decided to pick and choose the commandments I was going to live by. The more difficult ones I would put aside, and the easier ones I would live by. Seems simple. I felt like a man who was told by his doctor what foods I should eat to be healthy. The problem was that I loved eating things that were bad for me. The doctor couldn't force me to follow a healthy diet, and so I normally chose to eat the unhealthy things instead. At first, I felt like I was in paradise, eating whatever I wanted and whenever I wanted, but I soon found myself feeling horrible and wishing I had listened to my doctor. I eventually go back to the doctor knowing that I did wrong and afraid of how he is going to react to what I did to myself by eating things he specifically told me not to eat. This example reminds me of a beautiful parable Christ shared in order to teach about the Father's loving mercy. Then he said, "A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me.' The father divided the property between them. After a few days, the young son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country, where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, 'How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat? But here I am, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.'" God gives us the 10 Commandments not because he seeks to ruin your life, but because he knows, like any father knows, what would happen to his kids if they didn't live by them. Imagine if we didn't have the 10 Commandments and people lived against them. Wars would start without any reason behind them. Families would cease to exist because men and women would see each other as mere objects to be had and thrown away. Love would no longer be possible because all that would be found in man is selfishness. In order to have a beautiful life, we need the 10 Commandments. Will we fail at keeping them? Of course. Human history proves that, but humanity's history also proves that we have a Father that loves us with a mercy that is unfathomable. To wrap up the story I began, I realized myself that life lived without the commandments as a focus in my life was horrible. What once brought me happiness, joy, and pleasure ended up causing me depression, sadness, and pain. The commandments weren't iron chests weighing me down. They were the keys that would free me from the chains that I had wrapped around myself through my horrid actions. But I would never have figured that out if God hadn't let me discover it on my own. May God protect you in this journey called life. And I pray that it doesn't take you long to figure out that your Father in heaven is only looking to make your life better, not worse, through the 10 Commandments.